Welcome to SAM Conversation, an online program of South Asia Monitor. I'm Col Anil Bhat. It's a pleasure to introduce to you Miss Neena Rai, the author of a fascinating book titled Amazing Ayodhya, the splendid ancient city of Lord Rama.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I am now the author of two books. One is Amazing Ayodhya and the other one is Adbhut Ayodhya. So
Okay,
Adbhut
this
Ayodhya,
is
the English,
Amazing Ayodhya
yeah.
and Adbhut Ayodhya. Very
Yeah.
good, very
Now
good.
I have Adbhut Ayodhya as well.
Great, great.
Thank you.
That gives us more to bring out from you.
Yes.
I think Ayodhya, for all the wrong reasons, got into the news from, you can say, December 92, 6 December 92, when the Babri Masjid, so to speak, was knocked down. And those days it wasn't the one recalls that those who spoke much about that being Ram temple over which a mosque was made, that view was not considered a uh, very popular view, or very accepted kind of a view. We won't go into that because that's another very long story. But the fact remains that what the fervor that we are seeing in the last few days, which is being reflected almost every day on all the networks for us to see visually, is, I suppose, not without reason, because it's literally after 5 centuries that this the history is finding its own place. Ours is unfortunately the history of Hindu culture, which is very ancient. A lot of it got obliterated, um, twisted, buried, and I often refer to it as a minefield, which uh, today, which mines keep erupting here and there, all because um, it was pushed under the carpet, suppressed, twisted, whatever. Um, having read Neena Rai's book and having had the pleasure of reviewing it also, what I need to bring out is that she deserves credit for being probably the first. I'm sure there are other people who may have researched on this aspect, but we don't see much literature on it. Uh, she has gone into the history of Ayodhya as a city, as an ancient city which was uh, like a military city, a planned city, um, and also of what um, the other people, other famous people who also were born in it, uh, and of times where we had battles which were fought, and armies which were equipped with weaponry of those times, which she throws a lot of light on. Um, let's start. I think, Neena, by you telling us the very meaning of Ayodhya.
Thank you. So, there's, in the beginning when you gave the introduction, you said, in a wrong manner, the Ayodhya in 92, it happened in a wrong manner. And that is the perspective. So if you see the Hindu perspective, they think it is the right manner. Why? Because their cries, their repeated requests to get the temple back had been ignored. And repeatedly, even the British governments and governments, so for
No,
more than
that's what I meant. When I meant poor, I said it's where the truth wasn't coming out.
yes, the truth wasn't coming out. Also, if you are going to constantly ignore the majority people, especially when the majority's aradhya, the majority, the deity that the majority worships, when they're not given their right, imagine what the Hindus felt, we have no rights in this country. This is our country. This is supposed to be our country, and we have no rights in it. So therefore, there was this Jan Akrosh, as we call it in Hindi, Jan Akrosh. It's like just the anger in the people. And what you see today, you see, we were told this is not right, this is not going to happen, this is not. So what happened? Hindus kept quiet. But then the seething anger came out then, and now you see the jubilation from India to America to France to Mauritius. Everybody is celebrating today. And, having said that, let's come back to the topic. People, Hindus are happy all over the world. You said, what is the meaning of Ayodhya? The word Ayodhya, and one of the reasons I did this research is because I noticed that while there was a huge section of society that was very angry, there was a section of society that was utterly ignorant. And that section of society was the English educated school going society. The English educated, the young of the country, who are the inheritors of this great civilizations. They were the biggest ones, the biggest ignorant people that I came across. And this is why you had things like, why don't we make a library there? Why don't we make a hospital there? Or why don't we do this? Well, the church and the Waqf board are the largest landowners combined in this country. Why don't you request them? Should we make the Taj Mahal a hospital? It is spacious enough. So nobody seemed to ask those questions. When I saw all of this, and that is why I did my research. So my research in Sanskrit text was only for 5 years, and then I had traveled the world previously, even before. I have a keen interest in ancient civilizations. The meaning of Ayodhya in Sanskrit is Ayudhya. For example, we have words like Amar, that which does not die, Amar. We have things like myth, which means myth, that which jo mitta nahi hai. We have things like jar, that which doesn't grow old. So we have Ayodhya, that which you cannot fight, that which is unassailable, that which is unconquerable. And therefore, in the Valmiki Ramayana, it says, Satyanama Prakashate, Satyanama Prakashate. So it's like true to its name, true to its name. So why is it true to its name? And before Valmiki says Satyanama, he gives us a huge description of Ayodhya. He says, well, Ayodhya, well, in ancient times, all the capitals or all the districts used to be in a garh. A garh is a fort. So they were all fortified in strongholds. In English, you call them either a stronghold or a fortification. So they had these beautiful fortifications. Outside of the fortifications, we have these moats. And those moats were full of lotus. They were full of either in modern day, if we have a moat, we'll put crocodiles in them. But apparently in ancient times in Ayodhya, I think there were hippopotamuses, simply for the reason that hippopotamus used to get imported to Ayodhya. So it has many reasons. Then beyond the moat, there was a circle. In Sanskrit, it is called a mekhla of sal trees. Mekhla is a lady's waist belt. It is called a kardhani or kamarband. And the men wear kamarband and the women wear kardhani. So there was a 2 yojan. So the the measurements are given in Sanskrit and the ancient Hindu measurement unit, which is yojan. 1 yojan is equal to 8 or 9 miles approximately. Some say 9, some say 8, some say 10, but it is kept in that range. So you have 2 yojan broad, a jungle enveloping the whole of Ayodhya. Now, Ayodhya is described as a very, very beautiful woman. And so all the descriptions that we get of Ayodhya is as a woman is dressed. And that is why Valmiki says that it is the mekla or the waist belt. So, for example, you have incoming armies. So the incoming army is going to be slowed down because of the jungle. So let's say somebody is attacking Ayodhya. So we have the jungle with wild animals, especially tigers and lions. Then you go further, you have a moat that stops the advancing armies. And we have to remember that today we may have tanks and we may have progressed much, but the idea of warfare has not really changed. The main idea of warfare is divide and conquer. So how do you divide an incoming army? You divide an incoming army by creating obstructions so that they can't go straight up, correct? And therefore, we have the moat. And remember, in ancient days, we used to have Chaturangi Sena. Chaturang is the word from where we get the word Shatranj, so the chess. So in ancient armies, how the armies behaved is how the game of chess was developed. It was to teach the young kings and princes how to strategize in battle warfare. So you have infantry in the ancient times, then you have chariots, and then you have elephants, and then you have cavalry. Whenever there is a moat or a water body, we must remember that animals are fearful of crossing it, especially if it is full of crocodiles. Therefore, they succeeded in breaking the advancing armies. Then the next thing that we know in Ayodhya is that it was fully.
If I may stop you, Chaturangi Sena, you mean the cavalry, the horsed Chaturang, the
Chat.
horsed
No,
army
no.
on
Chaturang.
horseback.
No, 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 no. Chaturang, I described. Chaturang means four, that which has four parts. So in the ancient times, we had four-limbed armies. I know the horse is also called Chaturang, but in the ancient time, the Chaturang means four
Ah,
limbs. And the army was also four-limbed. What was the four limb? What were the four limbs of the army? The four limbs of the army were cavalry, chariots, elephants, and
yeah, yeah.
infantry. So from the Chaturang, we get the word
Yes, yes. Thank
Shatranj.
you.
So, and that is how
Yeah.
we planned the cities in order to stop the warfare, advancing army attacking us. So the moat was to protect these animals. So three parts of this Chaturangi Sena had animals in them, and animals are scared of crossing water. Then, if the soldiers manage to come in, then Ayodhya is a totally built up city. What that means is it's not a sparsely populated city, it's densely populated. And we know that in areas where there is dense population, you cannot fight wars. So when it's fully built up, when it's densely populated, it's not possible. And then we have the description of the rampart. On the rampart, it says that there are sacro shatagniya. So Shatagni is a very ancient weapon. In my book, I've described it in great depth, how it could operate, how it must have been. And that was used to then kill the armies on the other side, which is beyond the moat. So it was some sort of a missile. It could fire long enough to go there. And therefore, because of these descriptions, Sri Valmiki says it is true to its name, Ayodhya. You cannot fight it.
Now, there's also very interesting um, bits of information about other, other greats who were born uh, in Ayodhya.
There were many,
Would you
many.
please throw some light on them?
Yes. So there were many, many great kings who were born in Ayodhya. We must remember that why is Ayodhya famous today and why was it famous yesterday or even before? So it is said that for Hindus, Ayodhya is the cradle of human civilization for this Manvantar. for those who are familiar with Hindu cosmology, they would know that after every pralaya or the great flood, there is a Manu who comes and re-establishes back the human species. And by the human species, I mean specifically the Homo sapiens. Now, Manu is the progenitor of the human species. After the pralaya, after the great flood, he comes back and he makes Ayodhya his capital. And after him, all the Ikshwaku kings make Ayodhya their city. So we have great kings like King Sagar. So we have Sagar, from whom we get the name of the ocean. This is the reason we called our ocean Sagar. There is a very nice story about it. Sagar had many, many sons. They say that Sagar had 60,000 sons, and somebody stole Sagar's Ashwamedh Yajya horse, Ashwamedh horse, as we call it. And so Sagar told his sons to go look for it. So they went digging. So they looked all over earth. They couldn't find it. So therefore they decided, let us dig underneath. Let us dig the oceans. Let us go under the earth. So when they started digging, they dug up. And because of their frantic digging, the ocean expanded itself. So the current shape of the ocean around India is attributed to Sagar and his sons, and therefore Hindus call the ocean Sagar. Then we have Bhagirathi, then we have Raja Dashrath, we have Raghu. From Raghu, we have the saying, Raghukul Reet, Pran Jai, Par Vachan Na Jai. So you have these beautiful stories.
रघुकुल रीत सदा चली आई, प्राण जाए और वचन न जाई.
Yes, yes. So this was not only Raghukul Reet, this was the wreath of all the Ikshwaku kings. And in brief, I'd like to tell you, if you read the Valmiki Ramayana, they say that the Ikshwaku kings, all the kings from Treta Yuga to, from Satya Yuga, when Manu established it, to Treta Yuga till Ramji was there was one quality of Ikshwaku kings which they followed. And there were three qualities. And those three qualities were, they were all Param Dharmatma. So they were all very, very devout Hindus. And when we say Dharmatma, which Dharma they're following? So they are following Sanatan Dharma. Even Valmiki Ramayana repeatedly says Sanatan Dharma, Sanatani. He addresses Ram as being a Sanatan. And so they are Param Dharmatma. That means that the king is the upholder of Hindu Dharma or Sanatan Dharma in their jurisdiction. The second thing that they say is they're very, very brave people. Therefore, you will come across very, very heroic descriptions of these men. These men were extremely valorous. All these kings were extremely valorous. There are many, many descriptions of these kings wherein they say that they could fight, one person could fight 10,000 people. So we have Dashrath, who, the reason his name is Dashrath is because he could fight 10,000 warriors at one time. Even Bhagwan Ram in the Valmiki Ramayana single-handedly killed off 14,000 Rakshas at Janasthan. So this is the second point. They're very brave, very well trained in warfare. And the third is that they're Satyavadi. Satyavadi means that they will be always telling the truth. And if they have said something, their words are set in stone. And this is why, even though what Kekai, the boon that Kekai asked for was absolutely illegal. According to those times, it was illegal. It was unjustified because the father had promised two promises. Ram says, I will go and complete my 14 years. Even after Dashrath dies, he does not come back to Ayodhya, even on the requests of all the mothers. He doesn't come back. And this is because he says that it is the duty of the son. It is in my lineage that I have to be like this. If I don't do the 14 years in the jungles, my father will be called a liar, and I will not have that.
Great. What about your next book, Adbhut Ayodhya?
So about my new book. So when I wrote my book, Amazing Ayodhya, a lot of people sent me messages, and they would people even I didn't know, so they would send me messages on social media, they would call me, they would tell me. And the one request that they said, one or two things they said was, ma'am, if you would have taught us history, we would have loved it. But we didn't study history because it wasn't taught properly. You've given us all images, you've given us so many details. And they said, but the thing is, I can read it, but others cannot read it. So majority of the people in India are at least in North India, they're not very well versed with English. So they kept requesting, I want to gift it to my grandmother, I want to gift it to my mother, I want to gift it to this person, I want to gift it to that person. Can you please write it in Hindi? Can you please write it in Hindi? So therefore, I wrote the book in Hindi. It took me a very long time. It was a very tedious and an arduous process.
Oh, so it is Amazing Ayodhya, which is Adbhut Ayodhya in Hindi.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
very good, very good. Just as well that it reaches many more, a much wider readership.
yes.
Just as well. Um, there are some other uh, interesting aspects in your book about, again the history of Ayodhya, and of course which go with the history of um, Sri Ram also. Um, Briefly, if you could round them up.
You want to know the history of Ayodhya and the history of Sri Ram?
No, whatever you've touched upon battle formations. Uh, Now, anything further? Because
Yes.
there's so many things in your book. I can't start elaborating on. But
So one of the things that I want to pay attention to, or I want to bring the attention of people, is the vastness of Kosal's dominion. So we assume, or often we are told, that India was not a one nation state. There was no concept of India. There was, this is a new idea. India is a new idea. This is
mhm.
nothing but false. And if you read my book, Amazing Ayodhya, here Dashrath talks about the countries that he is ruling. He remember, Dashrath is an emperor. He's not a mere king. A mere king cannot do Ashwamedh yajnas. This is the first empire that is to be formed, because they are the heads of the human race. They have been protecting the human race since time immemorial. And so numerous kings were under Dashrath, numerous smaller kingdoms were under Dashrath. So he says, what is under him? So he says, Kasi, Kosal, Magad, Matsya. Also, he takes the name of Dravid. So Dravid, and also if we read the Sundarkand, we get to know that Dravid and then Sagar, the whole ocean.
Yes, I'm glad you pushed, because Dravid and Sagar are the important. It is the Chola kings. It's we. How did we reach? How did Hinduism reach right up to Indonesia? Because we had navies. We had a maritime. We had a great maritime system going on of the Cholas.
Yes,
It
yes.
is we couldn't have reached the Ashwamedh. Ashwa could only be on land, but
Yes.
beyond the land, Sagar.
Yes. So one of the important things I want to bring to attention here, this is not mentioned in the book. I'm letting you know, since you've raised this topic, there are different types of kings and there are different types of emperors. The emperor who wears a kirit, and Ram Bhagwan wears a kirit. A kirit is a special oblong sort of a crown. It's like this hat. So it goes up to the top. It's like the little cap that I'm wearing now. Imagine elongated and filled with diamonds. This is a special kirit. It's sort of oblongish on the head. This is what Ram Bhagwan wears. You are only allowed to wear this kirit, this particular kind of crown, if you not only own land, but you also own land beyond the seas. And this concept was not only in India, this concept, I have seen it in Egypt as well. The kings who wore this oblongish sort of a crown, they owned land beyond the seas as well. So not every king is an emperor. It takes a minimum of 1,000 kings under you to get yourself as an emperor. Amongst emperors, you have different crowns, and the kirit is given to the one who owns uh, areas beyond the ocean or owns the ocean as well. Ocean means small patches of, in India we call it the sagar, which is really massive, but in other countries it would mean portions of ocean which is near their country. So this is one commonality that I found in ancient culture, especially in Egypt.
I think there's so much, but it's great uh, for you to have researched on all these aspects and brought them out in not just your not just Amazing Ayodhya, but in Adbhut Ayodhya also, because as I said, they'll reach a much wider audience who and deservingly be read. Um,
And and like you had said that the in earlier times the Dravid, the idea of Dravid, that Dravid was a different country, Aryavrat is a different country, has been a very new one. In ancient India, there was no such differences, because, and I mentioned this on page 50 of my book, and he says yavadartha te chakram tavati me vasundhara. So in this whole earth, my reign is as far as a chakra, as far as a wheel can travel, and a wheel
yeah.
can roll indefinitely. And let me tell you, this concept of indefinite wheel travel was copied by the Romans. The Romans called themselves Imperium Sine Fine. While they were very small, they still called themselves the Great Roman Empire, Imperium Sine Fine. And the concept was the same, of Imperium Sine Fine, which is a sort of an empire without borders. There's no border, like it's so vast. So this is actually a copy of the ancient Hindu idea of what an emperor and an empire should be. And this is all, by the way, mentioned in the Valmiki Ramayana, which predates any of these civilizations by I don't know how many years.
Thank you, Neena. It was, I think, it's invigorating to hear some of the very, very interesting aspects of Ayodhya that you brought out, and I'm sure now is the time when um, not just Indians, but a lot of our diaspora from outside and a lot of foreigners from outside are also going to come and see this. Uh, if you had the Vatican, you had the Makkah Medina. Well, I think this is a far greater or much older, uh, uh, you know, headquarters of the Hindu culture, which I think is there's a lot going to happen there. Thank you, Neena. All the best.
Thank you for having me. Namaste. Jai Shri Ram.